Hi, it's Miss Backus, and today's lesson is going to be focusing on factors and factor pairs. When we talk about factors, we're talking about a whole number that multiplies with another factor to get a product. For example, in the number sentence 2 times 3 equals 6, the 2 and the 3 are factors. They multiply together to get the product 6. You can also say that a factor can divide evenly into another number. For example, we would say that 6 divided by 2 equals 3. In that number sentence, 2 is a factor of 6 because it goes into 6 evenly 3 times. We're going to be working on finding factor pairs today, and before we do that, I want to go over some common mistakes that students make so that we won't make them ourselves while we're finding factors and factor pairs. The first common mistake is that when they're listing factors, some students don't remember to include all of the factors. For example, some students don't remember that the number itself has to be included. For example, if we were trying to find the factor pairs of 1,463, we know that 1 times 1,463 has to be included as a factor pair. Make sure that you're including the number that you're looking for factors for, because any number times 1 equals that number. Another mistake that students make is that sometimes they try to find factors without a plan or a system. If you don't go into this with a plan or a system, you're going to make mistakes. Today, we're going to practice using a T-chart to keep track of our work and thinking so that we don't skip any factors. Let's go ahead and get started by trying to find our first set of factor pairs. Let's go ahead and find all of the factor pairs of 6. We're going to be using T-charts today, so you can see that I drew a T-chart. We have the crossbar at the top and the line that goes through the middle. I always want to put the number that I'm trying to identify factors for at the top of the T-chart. That reminds me of my focus, what number I'm trying to find factor pairs for. Then on either side of the T of the line that goes up and down, I'm going to be listing factors. I always want to start with 1 and then check 2 and then 3 and 4 and 5 and so on. I have to be very particular and meticulous to make sure that I don't miss any factors or make any mistakes. I'm going to start with thinking of 1. So I'm thinking to myself, 1 times what equals 6? Well, I know that 1 times 6 equals 6, so that must mean that both 1 and 6 are factors of 6. Then I'm going to move on to 2. 2 times what equals 6? I'm thinking to myself, well, if I count by 2s, I would say 2, 4, 6. So that must mean that 2 and 3 are both factors of 6. I'm actually going to stop here. I don't need to go any further. I have what's called a turnaround fact. I notice that if I look at what's at the bottom of my T-chart, I have a 2 and a 3. When I think about a number line, my number line has 2 followed by 3. I don't have to go any further. If I were to check the next number, in this case 3, I would know that 3 times 2 equals 6, but I already have that on my list of factor pairs. When I get to a turnaround fact like 2 times 3, I don't have to go any further. I've already done all of the work, and I've been able to identify all of the factor pairs. Because of the work that I've done, I know now that 1 and 6 and 2 and 3 are factor pairs for 6. Let's go ahead and try another one together. What are the factor pairs of 12? If I'm finding the factor pairs for 12, I want to make sure that I put 12 at the top of my T-chart. That way I can keep my focus and know which number I'm trying to find factors for. Then I'm going to start working my way from 1 to 2 to 3 and so on, and see if I can find other numbers that I can multiply to equal 12. If I start at 1, I know that 1 times 12 equals 12, so 1 and 12 must be factor pairs. After 1, I'm going to check 2. I know that 2 times 6 equals 12, so I'm going to include 2 and 6 as factor pairs. I've checked 1 and 2. Now I'm going to check 3. 3 times what equals 12? I'm going to go ahead and skip count to make sure that I'm thinking correctly here. So 3, 6, 9, 12. That means that 3 times 4 equals 12, so I'm going to include 3 and 4 as factor pairs for 12. I don't need to go any further because I have a turnaround fact. Did you notice that at the bottom of my t-chart, I have 3 and 4? When I think about a number line, 3 and 4 are right next to each other. The next number that I would check would be 4, and I already have the factor pair that 4 is part of. I don't need to go any further. Because of the work that I did, I'm able to tell that 1 and 2, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4 are all factor pairs of 12. I'd like for you to go ahead and try finding the factor pairs of a number yourself. Go ahead and set up your t-chart and see if you can find the factor pairs of the number 8. Pause the video until you're finished, and then we can come back together to check your work. After drawing your t-chart, the first thing you should have done is put an 8 at the top. That helps to keep your focus and remind you of the number that you're trying to find factor pairs for. Then you'll want to start at 1 and ask yourself 1 times what equals 8. I hope you remember that 1 times 8 equals 8, so 1 and 8 should be factor pairs. After checking 1, I want to go to the next number, and I'm asking myself 2 times what equals 8. Well, I know that 2 times 4 equals 8, so I've included both of them. Next, I'm going to check 3. I'm not sure that 3 is a factor of 8, so I'm going to skip count by 3 and see if I ever get to 8. 3, 6, 9. I skipped right over 8. That means that 3 is not a factor of 8. The next number I would check would be 4. When I look at 4, I see that I already have 4 on my t-chart. I don't need to go any further. I've found all of the factors of 8. That tells me that because of the work that I did on my t-chart, that the factor pairs of 8 are 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. Nice job. It's really important that you use your knowledge of basic facts to help you identify factors and factor pairs. The better you know your facts, the faster and the easier this will be for you. Make sure that you're practicing them so that you can find factor pairs and factors easily.